Hey there, it's Liz from No Trace. In this video, I'm going to show you how to sew an eye mask for sleeping. Now, this is an awesome project for using up some of your smaller scraps of fabric. If you'd like even more projects to use up your scraps, click the link in the description box below to snag 3 more free patterns for scrap fabric projects. This sleeping eye mask sews up really fast and makes a super sweet holiday gift. So let's go! In order to make your sleeping mask, you're going to need a pattern piece. Now, you could find a pattern piece online and download one for free if you just Google sleeping eye mask pattern, but I'm going to show you real quick how to make one as well. You're also going to need some scraps of fabric, something that's soft that'll feel nice against your face. So this is like a lightweight cotton lawn, and this is a really nice cotton poplin. You could also use silk, or you could even use knit fabric. And you'll also need a piece of cotton batting to go inside your mask. And then you need some nice wide elastic. This is about 15 inches of elastic. If you want to make your own pattern piece instead of downloading one, get a rectangle of paper that is 9 1/4 inches wide and 4 1/2 inches tall. So go ahead and cut that out of some scrap paper. What we're going to do next is fold this rectangle in half lengthwise. Okay, so now it's like this. And we want to measure 3 1/2 inches at the fold, at the center fold that we just made. Okay, and we're going to actually cut a curve. Now this doesn't have to be precise, but we're going to cut a curve from the center fold from 3 1/2 inches over towards the outer edge. And this is going to be the first curve in our mask, and that's going to create the space around your nose. And what you want to do next is just round out your pattern at the corners so that it'll be a nice rounded mask against your face. And then you can even create a little bit of a divot here above the nose, just like so, okay? So you can use your own pattern piece. This sews up or cuts out really easy. After you have your pattern piece, get your scraps of fabric that you're going to use for your mask and place them with the right sides together so that you can cut them out from your pattern piece at the same time. You could also get the batting in here as well and just line everything up so it's making a nice stack of all 3 parts of your sleeping mask. Now go ahead and lay your pattern piece on top of your scraps of fabric and your batting. And what I like to do is pin it to the fabric with a few pins. Once it's pinned in place, go ahead and get a piece of chalk or a pen, and you're just going to be outlining the pattern piece on your fabric, which is all pinned together. So we've outlined the pattern piece on our fabric, and I removed the pattern piece, and now I'm going to actually pin these 3 pieces to themselves before I cut it so that I'll have less of the material moving around. And then we're just going to go ahead and cut this out of the fabric. And I will point out that you'll probably want to round off that little nose spot a bit so it's not a super sharp angle. And then we're ready to pin our elastic on top of one of our layers of fabric. It doesn't really matter which layer. Just go ahead and pin it over on the sides so that we can baste this elastic into place in the next step. We're going to stitch the elastic onto the sides with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance so that it stays in place for the next step. So just go ahead and get that under your presser foot and then stitch it down and do a little back stitch. So the elastic is basted into place on the sides, and make sure there isn't any twist in it. So now we're ready to get the other piece of fabric and put it with the right side on top of this part of the mask. And we're gonna go ahead and pin it all the way around so that we can sew this at the machine. So I've pinned all the way around, and you wanna make sure that your fabrics are laying nice and flat on top of each other. And you also wanna make sure that the elastic is laying in the center of your mask and didn't get caught up in any of the edges that you just pinned. So we'll take it to the machine and we'll stitch all the way around, but we're gonna leave an opening of about 3 inches here at the top flatter, straighter edge. So we're gonna use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you do wanna make sure to do a back stitch at the beginning and the end of the opening. And then just take your time around all those curves, going nice and slow. So we've stitched all the way around, and now what you wanna do is just remove a little bit of the bulk, and remember that you can save these little bitty scraps and use them for stuffing pillows or stuffed animals. And you could also add them to your compost bin if you're using all natural fibers like cotton or linen. Okay, so we got most of the bulk cut away. Put those in my scrap pile. And what we want to do next is go around and create small cuts in the seam allowance here so that the fabric will lay more flat when we turn this right side out. So just get your scissors and carefully make small cuts, making sure not to cut your stitches, just to cut the fabric and the batting all the way around. After you've trimmed, made little cuts into your seam allowance, go ahead and turn your mask right side out. And one thing I want to point out is that the darker fabrics will help block a little bit more of the light. So you might want to think about that when you're choosing which fabrics to use. And obviously heavier fabrics, like if you were to use some kind of a fleecy fabric, that will help block more of the light. And you could always add more layers of fabric to your mask if you find that it's not quite dark enough for you. Once it's turned all the way right side out, you'll probably want to get a chopstick and just make sure that this seam is pushed out all the way around. And then we'll go ahead and take it to the iron, and we're going to iron this seam all the way around, especially at that little opening that we need to close up. Now that we've pressed it, we're going to take it to the machine, and we're going to do a top stitch of with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to start over on the side where the back stitch won't be as noticeable, and just go all the way around. Once you've top stitched all the way around, making sure to do a little back stitch where you begin, just trim those loose threads and try it on, make sure it fits, and then your mask is done. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you get out there and make a whole bunch of these sleeping eye masks. Don't forget to snag the free pattern in the description box below for more scrap fabric project ideas. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to the No Trace channel to get notified about all of our videos. We put out videos every single week on zero waste sewing projects and crafting and zero waste lifestyle tips. So I'll see you again very soon.